Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we're doing the October boxing schedule, as I'm going to cover all the fights that are taking place in the month of October for you to see on the different platforms and all that stuff. We will run through the top 3 cards of the month to pay attention to, the overall cards, and then I'll talk about the top 5 fights of the month from 5 to 1, so you can make sure you zone in on those ones. We're going to go in order, though, through the beginning of the month to the end and see what's going on. So first, this Friday, October 4th, on ESPN from Australia, Janibek Alamanhalai, pretty much the #1 middleweight in the world, the unified middleweight champion of the world, undefeated, is going to battle his IBF mandatory challenger, undefeated, Andre Mikhailovich. These two guys are going to lock horns. Big-time matchup right here. For Janibek, a win probably gets him to a mandatory against Hamza Shiraz or a unification against Carlos Adames. And Mikhailovich, this is a big opportunity for him to cash in on the wide-open middleweight division. Then the next day on October 5th, Nick Ball, the undefeated WBA featherweight champion of the world, is going to battle Ronnie Rios, former 2-time world title challenger, in a featherweight contest. It just says TNT Sports. It doesn't have a U.S. broadcast yet. So don't know if this fight is going to be brought to us in the U.S. A lot of times ESPN will pick up a fight like this and play it on ESPN Plus. I'm kind of expecting that, but we'll see what happens. I hope we get to see this, though, because this is going to be a good fight, a good chuck fest, and I'd like to turn it on in between games on Saturday when I'm coaching, so that'd be dope. Then a week later on October 12th, we kind of have a confusing card going on. I'm only going to mention the ones that make sense. So first on DAZN, there's 2 fights that make sense on DAZN, but they're all part of the Saudi card that is taking place from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So it's kind of weird. 2 of the fights are on DAZN and the main event's on ESPN Plus. First on DAZN, you got Chris Eubank Jr., former world title challenger, is going to battle fellow former world title challenger Kamil Zeramita. It should be a middleweight contest, but I think it's actually going to float between middleweight and super middle, so it'll probably be like catch weight in that area, 163, 164. They're going to battle Eubank, trying to get himself into a big fight. Remember, he was one of the finalists for Canelo heading into September, so he's trying to keep himself in position for a potential big fight like that moving forward. Then in the co-main event of the big card on DAZN, Jaio Pataya defends his IBF Cruiserweight Championship of the world when he battles Jack Massey of the United Kingdom, making the first defense of his second reign as world champion, as he wants to, keep his world title ahead of bigger things that we'll talk about in a little bit. Then the main event over on ESPN Plus is a huge showdown. Artur Beterbiev, the unified, undefeated light heavyweight champion of the world, battles undefeated Dimitri Bivol in a unification bout to determine an undisputed light heavyweight champion. Big time fight, battle of undefeateds. We'll get more into that fight in a little bit. The next day on Sunday the 13th and then Monday the 14th, but we have 2 cards coming on ESPN Plus from Japan. First on Sunday the 13th, the significant fight there is I think it's Takami Inoue, Naoya's brother, is going to defend his featherweight title against some dude named Tsutsumi. We'll get into why this one is significant, but that's the main fight on ESPN Plus on Sunday the 13th. Then on Monday the 14th, Junto Nakatani defends his WBC bantamweight title at 118 against some guy named Chip Patana. And we'll discuss that in a little bit, why this fight is so significant. But that's on ESPN Plus, Sunday the 13th, Monday the 14th. Two long cards from Japan, all featuring all Japanese fighters. I just picked out the 2 significant fights that matter, but check those out because they are relevant, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Then on the 19th on Amazon, you got you got Bakram Murtazalayev, the undefeated IBF super welterweight champ at 154, makes a mandatory defense against former WBO champion Tim Tszyu of Australia. Big time fight right here. It's taking place in the United States in Florida. Murtazalayev, first defense since knocking out the veteran Jack Colke. taking on Zoo. We'll talk about this fight a little bit more in detail. That's the main event on Amazon. It's actually the first Amazon card that is not being on pay-per-view, featuring the PBC, the Premier Boxing Champions. Also on the card, and I think it's the co-feature, Yoenis Tellez, undefeated 154-pound contender, takes on a guy named Johan Gonzalez. Tellez last year, before 154 blew up, I had him ranked in my top 10. This dude knocked out Sergio Garcia. He's a solid-ass fighter trying to continue to make a name for himself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does against Gonzalez in this one. Also on the 19th, from Germany, and I don't know if we're going to get a U.S. broadcast, but the vacant IBF Cruiserweight title goes on the line, the title that Canelo was stripped of, when William Skull, undefeated #1 ranked contender, battles Vladimir Shishkin, #2 contender. That's a very significant fight right there because it's going to decide one of the belts at 168 that Canelo had to give up. And then on the 26th on DAZN, Jack Catterall battles Regis Prograis in a 140-pound clash. Big battle right here between these two guys. Crossroads fight. We'll get more into it in a few minutes about why. That's on DAZN on the 26th, and that's it for the month. Now, the top three, so every weekend we got fights. We got multiple cards. We got fights on Friday the 4th, Sunday the 13th, Monday the 14th. So all through the month you got boxing cards. The top 3 cards of the month, I didn't have a #3 card because a lot of them aren't that great. I guess I would throw the 2 Japanese cards that are taking place back-to-back days on the 13th and 14th. I'd probably throw those 2 on there as the best, the third best, because they're so deep. But the rest of the cards aren't great. They're really one fight that are solid outside of the top 2. Number 2 is the Amazon card on the 19th, featuring Bakram Murtazalayev and Tim Tszyu in the main event for the 154-pound IBF title. And then Yoenis Tellez and Johan Gonzalez, also 154-pound tilt. That's the second best card of the month. The best card of the month is the joint DAZN ESPN Plus card from Riyadh season card that features Beterbiev and Bivol for the undisputed light heavyweight title at 175 in the main event. That's ESPN Plus. And then Opetaya Massey for the cruiserweight IBF title, and Chris Eubank and Camille Ziramita. There's other fights on the card. These are the significant ones, though, to talk about. That's the best card of the month, Riyadh Seasons card, for sure. So now let's take a look at the top 5 fights of the month, and we'll get a little bit more in depth on these fights and why you should pay attention. Tied for 5th, and it was tough leaving the other 2 title fights out. Actually, I left 3 title fights out, but it's because the significance weren't as big. Janibek and Mikhailovich, unified middleweight title, but it's just a mandatory defense for Janibek. Not a lot of people are expecting Mikhailovich to do much. Nick Ball and Ronnie Rios, same thing on October 5th. Ball's the solid favorite. Rios should provide an entertaining battle, but not a lot of people are expecting that to be a big-time great fight. And then Skull and Shishkin for the vacant IBF Cruiserweight title. Significant because they're claiming a world title, but they're not well-known fighters, so not a lot of significance. But tied for 5th is the Nakatani versus Chip Patana and Inoue versus Zumi card. And here's why, those 2 fights, they're both bantamweight world title fights, so that makes them significant. But here's why they're very significant. Because if both these guys win, Junto Nakatani has accepted the monster Naoya Inoue's terms. Inoue said, if you beat my brother in unified belts, then you get a fight with me for undisputed at 122. Junto Nakatani said, okay, let's do this. So these 2 guys, on back-to-back days, on the 14th for Nakatani, on the 13th for Inoue, and on the 14th for Nakatani, these are huge fights right here, because if they win these 2 fights, which they should, and if they win, they're setting up a unification amongst each other. And then if Junto Nakatani is the winner out of that, then undisputed with Inoue is there. And that's huge. That is huge. And it's also huge for the younger Inoue if he beats Nakatani as well later on, because then he shuts down 118. He could probably move up to 122 and win his brother's belts as his brother moves up to 126. So a lot riding on those fights on the 13th and 14th. That's why those are significant. Number 4 on the month is Opetaia and Massey for the IBF Cruiserweight title. You might not think so, but it's really about what's at stake after. You know, Opetaia shouldn't have a problem with Jack Massey. He should be able to handle Jack Massey and get him out of there. But it's what's at stake for really the winner, but more Jai Opetaia. Because Chris Billum-Smith and Gilberto Ramirez are unifying their Cruiserweight titles. The WBO, WBA belts, they're unifying those belts on November 16th. Part of Riyadh season for Golden Boy. The winner of that fight's going to have 2 belts, and they are already talking that the winner of that fight fights Jai Opetaia to unify more belts. So, to unify 3 of the 4 titles. So that's huge. A lot of significance rolling. Jai Opetaia is the #1 cruiserweight in the world right now, and he's got guys threatening for the top, trying to unify belts around him. So a lot of significance for Opetaia on this DAZN card on October 12th to win this fight. So a lot of pressure, and a lot can come with the victory. Then number 3 on the month, I'm going with Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis. No title at stake here. The 140-pound tilt taking place October 26th on DAZN. But Catterall avenged his loss where he got robbed against Josh Taylor. He had a close decision victory over him earlier this year. And Regis Prograis hasn't fought since getting dominated by Devin Haney last year. Now these two guys are going to collide. And it's really a crossroads fight. If Catterall beats Prograis, especially if he beats him, you know, by a wide mark, he's probably finally going to get another title shot or a bigger fight. Big fights come. And if Prograis wins, Prograis can set the tone and get right back in the mix, because that's the one thing. Prograis an older dude, but he's got an attractive style and a beatable style after the way Haney handled him. So the winner of this fight has big things coming his way at 140, and 140 is fucking huge. It's a great division right now for fighters to be in and to make some money, especially with Riyadh season helping out, coming out, you know, getting involved. It's huge, and that 140 is just wide open. So the winner of this fight really is going to have some good things coming to him. The number 2 fight on the month is Bakram Murtazalayev and Tim Tszyu for the 154-pound super welterweight title. That takes place on October 19th, main eventing an Amazon card. This is a big fight right here for both men, because as I just said about 140, 154 is fucking blowing up. It's huge right now. So many things. So many good fighters. Tim Tszyu's right at the top. He narrowly lost his title in a bloodbath with Sebastian Fundora earlier this year. Now he's getting a crack at another title, and a victory sets up major fights for him at 154 moving forward. And Bakram Murtazalayev, this is an opportunity for him to make his splash. If he can upset and beat Tim Tszyu and keep his belt, then big fights await for him moving forward. So this is a big time clash for 154. And again, the winner is going to have a lot riding. And again, don't count Bakram Murtazalayev out of this fight. I'm going to do a breakdown video soon on this fight. Don't count him out. He's a live dog here. I think it's a good matchup. Tim Tszyu is, you know, on paper, he might be a heavy favorite, but I really think Bakram has a solid chance in this fight. So don't count him out. This is a good matchup. That's why it's my number 2 on the month. But by far, the number 1 fight of the month in October, without question, not even close, is Arthur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol as they attempt to unify all 4 belts and determine undisputed at 175 light heavyweight. Not only is that historic, not only is that big, I mean, these guys have been floating around each other, trading 1 and 2 for like 5 years now. If that's not big enough, the winner, especially if it's Bivol, likely gets a rematch with Canelo. And Beterbiev, if he doesn't get a rematch with Canelo, maybe he fights David Benavidez. Big fights await the winner of this fight. Bigger fights. And not to mention the lineage, unifying all 4 belts. We're in the era of undisputed. And it's an attractive thing. And these guys have been dancing around each other. They are by far the top 2 light heavyweights in the world. And finally, we get to see who is the better man on October 12th on ESPN Plus for Undisputed. So super looking forward to that. Make sure you check out boxing this month. It's going to be good. Janibek Mikhailovich, October 4th, ESPN. Nick Ball, Ronnie Rios, featherweight title, October 5th. October 12th, the big DAZN card, Riyadh season. Opetaia Massey, Eubank Ziramita, Beterbiev Bivol. Sunday and Monday, 13th and 14th, Inoue defending his WBA 118-pound title, Little Inoue. Then Junto Nakatani defending his title. 19th on Amazon, Murtazalayev and Zhu for the IBF super welterweight. Ioannis Tellez, Joanne Gonzalez, William Skull Shishkin on the 19th as well for the vacant super middleweight title, and Jack Catterall, Regis Prograis at 140 to close out the month. So a good month of boxing here. Make sure you check it out. Can't wait to see it. That's it. That's what I got. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. This is True Boxing, and you've been hit with the truth.